Hi everyone, this is Swati from the softwaretestinghelp.com team, and today we bring the QA team leads question and answer session. So in this session, what we will do is we will look at what are the key skills that are being tested when you are interviewing for a team leads position, and we'll also look at some few sample question and answers. So let's get started. Now, in general, all interviews, QA interviews, or any other IT interviews for that matter, are trying to test three main important skills. One is the core technical knowledge and expertise. That means if you are a QA, you're expected to be very, very good and know everything that there is to know about the QA field. Then comes attitude. This is very important because most IT software projects work in a team based situation. So it's very important for everybody working in such an environment to be a team player, to be able to work in a collaborative environment effectively, and so things like that. So attitude really, really goes a long way. And then comes communication. Now, communication is true for any role. I mean, is actually a very important, crucial skill for any role, whether it is QA team lead, QA team member. So communication is all about overall cohesiveness, conviction, and clarity in your thought is what is, it is what contributes to effective communication. So we'll not look at how you can establish positive communication, but please do note that for to come out as a good communicator, you have to be a good listener first and respond appropriately, not talk all not go on and on, not use flamboyant big words that don't make sense or don't fit into the context. So simple, concise, clear, cohesive way of talking, way of presenting your skills or presenting your ideas is what contributes to communication. But we will take a look at the first two categories, of course, the core technical expertise and attitude. So for a team lead, technical expertise is common. Everybody needs to be good at their field. Next comes how do you act as a team player, because team leads a lot of times can go into a mode where they think of themselves as a supervisors or um, as bosses rather than being one among the team members. So that is not a very positive, that's not a very conducive environment to effective working conditions. So team player attitude is very important, and also the leadership and being able to manage your team's decision making, all of these skills are also highly in demand when it comes to a test lead position. So we'll take a look at some sample question and answers that will try to target these three areas. So what I have done is I've divided the technical expertise questions into one area, and the other questions, category 2 and 3 questions, are into another area. Now, what we would do is this will not be like, a hundred questions list or 1,000 questions list. What we will do is we'll try to target at the very main areas. So few questions, but comprehensive answers, and not really about politically correct answers, but trying to understand what the interviewer is looking for and how we can effectively put our thoughts into words is what we will look at right now. So let's go ahead and take a look at an Excel sheet that I have with some questions. Now, the first and foremost thing that anybody would ask you in an interview would be about what are your roles and responsibilities and what do you do? And as a team lead, it is important that you're aware of how you're spending your time. So a sample answer here would be about talk about what do you do on a day-to-day basis. So talk about what your responsibilities are during a test plan stage. So probably during a test plan stage, your activities are more and more about being in discussion with the client or being in discussion with your business analyst, with your own team, coming up with schedules, coming up with analysis of the risks, so on and so forth. Then when it comes to test design, you're actively participating in writing test cases, reviewing them, finalizing them, making sure they're getting reviewed by the external teams and stuff like that. Now, when it comes to test execution, as a team lead, your job responsibility would be doing the test readiness review checklists, going forward with testing itself, providing basic sanity, reporting on a timely basis, engaging in the actual testing activity, reporting defects, so on and so forth. Now, that is typically the job description of a team lead during the different phases of the software testing lifecycle. But an employer might be more interested in understanding your how do I put it? Understanding your bandwidth. Like, how are you dividing your time to various tasks and what they are. So something to this effect, let me just take you to that slide. So something to this effect would be, more meaningful. Like 50% of the time, your day or, your entire effort is towards the actual testing activities and whatever they might be, planning, design, execution. Then 20% of it might be reviews. 10%, usually that's the industry standard, is for coordination. But if you're spending more time on coordination, please make sure that you mention that. Then you might be in touch with the client and understanding the delivery stuff and all of that. So that time, so this is again a vague kind of sample, but try to look into your job and see how you can divide your work and be ready with this answer. So that's the STH tip that you see right there on my screen. Prepare ahead, because it's quite hard to conjure up these figures out of thin air right there in an interview. So be prepared with them. It takes just a little bit of prep ahead. Once you have these figures all figured out, then it'll be a very, very smooth ride for you from there, and you'll be able to put forward your case in a more comprehensive manner. So that is the very first question. So this will give them an indication of what your role has been, what your responsibilities have been, and how you've divided your time. Now, next question we'll go to is, what QA processes do you use in your project and why? Now, those of you who are not aspiring for a QA lead position and are simply looking for a QA team member position, you might wonder that this is a question that you also get asked. So whether it is a team member or a team lead, this question comes to everyone. The difference between what is expected of a team lead and a team member is that team leads should establish the process, not just be proficient in using them. So what process do you use? So think about it, take a look at it. Now, usually, now when our students or when our participants attend an interview, they come back to us and, share their experiences with us. So this is a very common question that comes up in most interviews, and they come back and ask me, what did I say wrong? Because I talked about the software testing lifecycle, I talked about how there is test design, test planning, execution, so on and so forth, but still, it seemed like the wrong answer. What can I do better? Now, QA process, yes. Ideally, STLC is followed in conjunction with the software development lifecycle. But what is important here is to talk about the process that you follow at your workplace. So it could be an on-site offshore model, it could be an agile model, or it could be a hybrid model with the waterfall and the agile techniques combined together. So whatever it is that you do, be sure to find that model that is working for you on a day-to-day basis and be able to explain that. And as a team lead, what you should do additionally is decide, or be able to put forward why you have chosen a particular model. Let's say the model that you use right now is agile and waterfall together, and in fact that's what I use also in my current project work. And the reason why I do so is because we follow the small sprint model, which is directly derived from Agile. And we do that because we want quick results. But at the same time, I still make a comprehensive test plan. I still make comprehensive test scenarios. I still report defects exactly in the same way. The reason why I do that is because there should be a certain amount of repeatability, and justifying the cost of quality for testers is very hard. So I try to maximize all of that in the limited time that I have while I follow a process that mimics the waterfall model QA practices. So this has been working for me. So if there is something that's working for you, if you have followed a particular model because of a particular reason, please emphasize that. Next, what do you consider to be your key accomplishments? Now, this is something that we all struggle with, because partly because we don't consider our day-to-day victories to be big accomplishments. Now, company-wide recognitions like pat on back awards or employee of the month, great. I mean, star rating or star performance rating. If you have had any of those, be sure to, now is the time you use them to your best advantage. But if none of those happen, I mean, things are not fair in the workplace, and we might not always get the company-wide recognition that we deserve. But that doesn't mean that there are no accomplishments at all. Probably you have created a test plan for a difficult project, or a project that was already in the red state. That means delayed, or overly expending effort or something like that. Or in my case, there was this one application that underwent like constant changes, but the sanity test never really had a sequence of steps to be followed. So what I've done is I've actually taken a document and started writing it down so that I don't have to be there every time I have to do the sanity test. One of my team members can do it very, very easily using that document that we have. So that also is an accomplishment. So whatever you do, if you've inspired a team member, if you've recommended certification for them, so take a look at how you have positively contributed to your workplace, and every single aspect of that could be an accomplishment that you should be proud of and be able to present that in front of an interviewer. Coming to test estimation is usually the responsibility of a test lead every time there is a new project or a new CR. So if the question comes to you and you're asked, whether you've done test estimation, usually the answer is a yes, because that's one of the qualifying factors to be a test lead. Now, there are many, many techniques on how to do test estimation. I mean, there are function point analysis, there are, a lot of formulae that I also find to be quite, how do I put it, quite tedious to actually follow, difficult to follow. So the method that I use when I'm estimating is I prepare my basic test scenarios. Sorry about that. So I prepare my basic test scenarios. Let me use an Excel sheet. So I create my basic test scenarios. And based on the test scenarios, I kind of get an idea of how many test cases I'm looking at. So this is always an approximation. And when I'm looking at these test scenarios and high-level test cases, I come up with assigning complexities as well. Which test cases are going to be difficult end-to-end? Some of them are just field-level validations. So I'm going to end up with, let's say I estimate that I'm going to end up with 500 test cases, out of which 100 are, high complexity. Um, 30, I mean, the rest of them, like, maybe 200 of them are medium complexity, and the other 200 of them are low complexity, which means they are just field level validations, or, just test cases that have less than 10 steps. So usually my estimation is that when you have test cases of low, you know, uh, im- complexity, this would take about, you would be writing anywhere about 50 to 100 test cases per person per day. So this is again, something that I have come up with based on, the experience that I've had. Now with medium, you can look at anywhere between 30 to 50 test cases per person per day, and higher ones are anywhere between 8 to 10. So this is the same amount of time it takes to both write as well as execute. So based on this, I would just, provide a ballpoint figure, and at the end, I usually add a 25% contingency to my estimations. Now, this is the method that I follow. As you can see, there is no rhyme or reason. It is just based on the historical data and my past experiences. So whatever method that you follow for test estimation, it does not have to be one of the standard function points or anything like that. But whatever you follow, and whatever reason that you choose for following a particular pattern, be sure to put that out there in front of the interviewer. And finally, coming to the technical expertise based questions, you could also be asked about the tools that you use, and also, how familiar are you with the process and mastery. So if they are asking you some questions about how do you manage on-site offshore projects, what are the challenges that you face there, how do you overcome the challenges. So it is never enough when you say that, I have a XYZ challenge. It's always important to think about how do you overcome it, how do you, get past it, what has been your past experience, what has worked for you, what has not worked for you. So provide a very, very, how do I put it, a very broad, low level description of exactly what went on when it comes to challenges. So process familiarity, whether it is agile you're following, scrum model or a kanban model, whatever model that you're following, always be sure to be ready with the explanation of why you're doing that. And coming to tools, to not just use of the tools, but probably being an administrator to the tool, or if that's not your job profile, you could also talk about what kind of managerial aspects you use in them. Say, for example, you use a tool like Jira Agile. How often do you use the burn down chart? Do you use it at all? If you do use it, what is it used for? So think about, your usage of the tool. So it's not just enough to give your point of view on how you do defect management with the said tool. think about what kind of analytics you're looking for, what kind of setup options that you need in order to accomplish what you need to accomplish in your process. So tool expertise, when that question comes to a team member, that is quite one dimensional usage, but for a team lead it is all about the setup and effective use, and also helping it in terms of time management, effort management, and better analytics. So those are a few areas in which you could be asked for technical expertise. Now let's move on to the next area where you could be tested, which is about your team playing skills and also your leadership and management skills. Now the very first question, now this is something typically I ask, do you write test cases? Because for a testing team, it is very important to have a positive, collaborative, attitude, because when a lot of team leads do not count themselves when they are actually estimating projects, or estimating work that needs to be done, probably like writing test cases and all that, and that's not the right attitude, because as I was talking to you before, just 10% is the industry standard time for coordination. The rest of the time you should be working along with your teams and doing what the team members normally do. So the answer to the question, do you write test cases, is always a resounding yes, because yes, at the end of the day, we are still testers. We just have additional responsibility of coordination when you are a lead. So be open and be positive to writing test cases, because it's great work, isn't it? That's the first reason why we are testers, and it's something that we will do for the rest of our career. So yes, we do write test cases. How do you resolve team issues? Now this is where they're trying to understand your leadership and management skills. Now team member issues. Now this is again a vague answer, probably something that I have probably followed in my case, but your case could be different. But in my case, what I do is I talk to individual team members differently and see, if it's something that needs escalation, probably something much more serious like a misdemeanor or a harassment and things like that. But when none of that is there, it's just a slight misunderstanding, I just ask them to have lunch together and resolve the issue mutually. But if that's not happening, I'll probably call a meeting in a conference room, have everybody sit together and talk and discuss things. The last resort would be to escalate that to a human resources team and have them interfere, but mostly issues get resolved while we are dealing with them informally. Next comes, how do you provide feedback to a team member who isn't doing very well? Because this is about constructive criticism. How do you help them? So as managers or team leads, it's very important in the beginning itself to set expectations. Tell them what do you expect of them, and give them some timeline, provide them with all the inputs, and let them explore and work by themselves. So have a set timeline, probably in 30 days or 3 weeks, 1 week, you want to evaluate their work, get back to it and evaluate it. And once that 1 week is done, so once that, timeline comes up or, is done, that's a good time to come back and look at statistics. Now, we cannot say that your work is not good because I just don't like it. That's not professional, neither that is helpful. So when you set targets, set a timeline. Once the timeline ends, sit down and evaluate. So to evaluate, you need to gather statistics. So this statistics can be things like how many review comments they have received, like negative review comments, of course. And probably you are looking at timesheets not being filled up. That's a negative as well. When you don't follow the organizational policies and activities, that's always a negative. So check if there are any timesheets that are not filled, or if things have not been delivered on time. So delivery on time issues, if so, whatever it is has given you the opinion that things are not going well about this particular employee, be sure to get those statistics, have a meeting with that person, talk to them, show them the statistic, tell them this is what you got, and seek approval. Seeking approval is very important, because anybody is willing to change only when they see that they need to change. So seek approval and let them know, let them agree that there has been a problem, and then provide help. Maybe you can assign a mentor to them. Maybe you can provide them additional resources, give them more time, or listen to their point of view, and maybe they have a better working style. So whatever it is, provide help, again set a timeline and evaluate over a period of time. So that's how I would deal with performance issues from team members. um, The next question is, how do you handle induction of new team members, or what do you do to train new team members? So usually the process is simple. You make a plan on how you can, absorb them into the currently existing team, provide them the documentation, give them all accesses. Again, set targets, tell them, you expect so and so of them from so and so time. If need be, you can ask one of your team members to work with them closely. But whatever you do, have a plan in place, have some knowledge transfer activity happening, introduce them to all the team members, or share the email addresses of the business analysts, development teams, network teams, support teams, and all of that. So the team member feels self-sustained to be able to find their or navigate their path within a new organization. So when all of these steps are taken, things become much more easier. Induction becomes a much more easier process. The next question is, how much of your involvement is in reviewing the test cases or defects or things like that? Now it's very it might feel like you're doing a very important job when you say that I review every test case that is ever written, but that's not practical. Instead, you should establish processes which will make your team member not write those mistakes in the first place. So as far as I'm concerned, I do minimum review, but at the same time I empower my team members to be able to do their work well. So all the work, all the time that needs to be taken is taken during the time of establishing the process. Like for example, I'm performing a documentation peer review. So what I encourage them to do is I give them set guidelines, like make sure that every test case ID is unique, ID and description are unique, and then make sure the description of the test case and the expected result, both of them match. Make sure the format is correct, make sure there are no spelling errors. So when you have a set rules like this, it becomes easier, and there is little intervention or hand holding when it comes to how you manage your teams. So not only should you be a good role model, should be good at doing your task, you should also empower your teams and be a mentor so they can be self-sufficient and they can do their work by themselves with little or no supervision. So be sure to get that point across when you're asked this question in an interview. And the next thing is, how do you analyze risks and overcome them? Now, risk analysis is definitely the job of a team lead. So risk analysis is mandatory when you do it in the test plan stage. So there you will be wondering about anything, or you would be kind of estimating about anything that might cause a disruption to the QA process or project as a whole. So this could be schedule problems, natural calamities, team leads or team members, being new, learning issues, technical issues, all of that. So for more information, we have articles on our website. You can just go to software testing help and type risk in the search button and you'll see the articles. And there's also FMEA analysis. So all of these articles are present on our site. So and in addition to this, if you've used any different methods of risk analysis, be sure to put that forward. Next is, what kind of guidance have your team members sought from you and how did you help? Now, this is to judge your role as a mentor, because team leads have to be examples, because all today's QA team members are going to be tomorrow's team leads, and the way they are going to be team leads will be affected on how you have been a team lead with them. So set a good example, be a good mentor. Not it I mean, project welfare is good, yes, it's what we all strive towards, but team member welfare is also very important. Make sure that your team feels included, your team feels a part of the decision making process, not as somebody who just implements your choices. So what kind of guidance? So this could be probably, when kind of work around the schedules based on a personal issue that your team member is facing, or it could be you can support them while they are working for certification. You can provide suggestions, you let them know that hey, you can do a certification, this is the good time in your career. So whatever it is that you've helped your team members with, be sure to let that know. Now, when none of these circumstances exist in your experience and all you've done is send an appreciation email on a job well done, that also is a great contributing factor. So there are many, many things that we can highlight in how we contribute positively to our team members' welfare. So please be sure to, think of instances ahead of time. Finally, what do you consider before hiring and firing? Now, when you're hiring, again, look for technical expertise, attitude, and communication, and also the potential that they bring to the team. Now, a lot of times this is a complaint that I hear from many of the newcomers. They say that I'm very good at manual testing, but they hired somebody who knew more automation testing, even though there's no automation testing in the project. So that's because, companies always look for how you can expand and, what kind of potential you're bringing to their teams um, for their future reasons. So when you are hiring in a hiring position, look for who is the best fit, look for who can really grow with the company and whose career aspirations are in line with the companies, and what's the best relation possible right there. And when it comes to firing, I would always stay clear of, any kind of controversial answers here. So I would just say that in extreme cases, like, somebody has been involved in embezzlement or misdemeanor, harassment, and that sort of stuff, then you'll probably recommend for a firing. But rest of the issues are things that you can definitely resolve among yourselves. So when it comes to technical expertise, be the best at what you do. When it comes to leadership and being a team player, be very, very hands-on. So give the interviewer a feeling that you're very hands-on, that you're involved in the decision-making process along with your team and you're working as a team. Be a good mentor, be somebody who has great leadership and decision-making skills along with the technical expertise. So we hope that this session has given you an insight into how to prep for a QA lead interview. We wish you all the best. As always, please share your experiences, and if you think that any answers could be different, please share all of that in the comments below. Thank you very much.